Hello, this is Nolan Davis, and today we're going to be talking a little college football playoff expansion, so let's get right into it. So let's take a look at what we have right now. Currently, we have a 4-team field. In recent years, there has been demand to expand either to 8-team or 16-team field. And before we get into everything else, let's take a look at some of the different stakeholders we have. Obviously, players and coaches have a huge part in this, but you also have to look at the conferences, the NCAA, the fans, the major TV networks, all of that. It's really a big picture thing when we're talking about this. So that's kind of all the different stakeholders we have right off the bat. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the pros of expansion. And the first one I have off the board is fairness. And basically all this means is more teams will get a shot at the championship. So instead of arguing and debating about whether they should get a shot, now they get a shot. Second, I have the additional revenue that 2 more games would produce. This one's pretty self-explanatory. More money for the schools, more money for the conferences. Obviously, that's a pro for them. Conference inclusion is my next one. All under my proposal, every Power 5 conference will have a representative in it as their champion. So obviously, that's something that would be an improvement from the field of 4 to have all 5 conferences in the playoff in some form. And next, we have on-campus playoff football. So under my proposal, the first round would likely be played at the higher seed stadium. And that's just something that I think would be cool to see. I think a lot of people would enjoy seeing that. It'd be good for brand exposure. It'd be good for the universities. And overall, it's something I think a lot of people would really enjoy. All right, so let's take a look at some of the cons of expansion. And the first one that leaps out to me is obviously increased risk of injury. While this is a concern in itself, it also has a tie-in with a recent trend of a star player sitting out for the bowl game in order to stay healthy. And obviously, 2 more games is not going to help that trend. So that's something that's going to have to be thought of and worked out. Academic concerns, depending on how you set it up, you may run into some school time on one side or the other, either in December, in late December, or early January. So that's something that would have to be worked out. Oversaturation. Now this one's a little bit debatable, but this is more of a personal opinion that if you keep on adding games, eventually fans are going to burn out. Players are going to burn out. Coaches are going to burn out. And it's just what happens. So that's something I believe that would have to be looked at, have to be thought of. And then finally, and the biggest one for me here, is no player benefit. Everybody else will benefit from this. Coaches will get paid more. The NCAA will make more money. Schools will make more money. Conferences will make more money. But the players will get absolutely nothing other than having to play 2 more games. And that's something that I think definitely needs to be worked out. Definitely needs to be looked at. And honestly, I believe that's the biggest blockade from stopping. All right, so let's get into my proposal a little bit here. And obviously, we have 8 teams on the board. All conference champions get in with 3 wild cards, and seeding would not be all conference champions or 1 through 5. If there's a really good Big Ten team, that could be the 2 seed. But let's say Michigan is the 1 seed, then that 2 seed that wild card could be the 2 seed. Double player stipend for 2 months. I just mentioned this, how the players wouldn't benefit from any of it, but I propose doubling player stipend for December and January, giving them some incentive to make the playoff if there's not already enough. But the biggest point of this is to reward the players in some way, because under the current system, there would be no rewarding at all. Calendar details. I mentioned this a little bit in cons. You'd have to work it out to where the players are missing a minimal amount of school, hopefully not any. Loser first round is still bowl eligible. So if you lose in the first round, you can still go to a bowl. I'm not exactly sure how that would work out, but I don't think a lot of schools would love to not get any bowl at all if they make the playoff. So obviously that's something that had to be worked out. All right, and to wrap things up here, I'll just say a few quick things. Overall, I believe it helped brand exposure for these programs and postseason metrics as far as viewing goes. Boosted revenue will obviously be a huge push factor. Overall, this is the biggest thing. I would like to see players get compensated for the additional revenue they bring in here. I mean, obviously, you add 2 more games, that's adding more strain to an incredible amount of strain that's already on them. So I would really like to see them get compensated in some way, and that's all I'll say on that. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Thank you for doing this.